Welcome to Radio KAL, the Superman podcast brought to you by supermanhomepage.com. This is show number 104, released on August 28th, 2013. And my name is Steve Eunice, and joining me, as always, is my good friend Scotty. Hey, Scott.
Oh, I was just playing a video game.
Yeah?
How you doing, Steve?
Which one? Which video game?
Time to record episode whatever 100 and something this is. That's what the game is called.
I thought you were maybe dodging bullets fired by Batman fans.
Well, looks like a lot of us have to do that nowadays, huh?
Yeah, it's obviously going to be the main topic we're going to start off with. And for those who have been maybe hiding under a rock and haven't heard the latest development, as we know, as we discussed in our previous podcast, Batman and Superman will be in a movie together.
No, they won't.
Just now, Warner Brothers have announced officially that they have cast Ben Affleck as Batman.
Boo!
And the world fell apart.
Yes. Boo, that's right. We're not worried about violence, and we're not worried about gun control. We're not worried about taxes or the terrible other things that are going on in the world. What's most important is that Batfleck should not be allowed to be Batman, because somehow our world comes to an end if that happens.
Yeah, seriously, can you believe the backlash that this has received? I mean, somebody started a petition on the White House website.
I read today that he was getting death threats, telling him to back out of the role or that his life was in danger.
This is crazy. I cannot believe the backlash that this has received. This is unbelievably stupid.
It's funny because I feel actually kind of good about being a Superman fan. Because as upset as people were and as crybabying and whining that happened when Snyder was announced as director and when Cavill was cast and
that
all
John
this
Williams
talk of
theme wouldn't be used.
Dark, and there's no John Williams and they can't bring Christopher Reeve back from the dead. All the crying that happened there, I don't remember anyone talking about death threats or trying to petition the president of the United States to stop Batman from being played. I mean, I can't even finish my statement. It's just the most insane.
It's ridiculous.
It's the most insane thing I have ever heard.
Seriously, and then somebody said to me, jumping on the whole bandwagon of let's do petitions. Like, I received all these links from, let's petition this, Warner Brothers petition the president, petition this. Then I got this one about, well, since we're doing petitions, why don't we petition Warner Brothers to change the ending to Man of Steel for the Blu-ray and DVD release? Because
the ending to what?
What? Yeah, exactly. They're just going to go back and film the whole thing again just for the Blu-ray release.
That's right. Let's bring you all back, and instead, Zod and Superman will shake hands and agree not to destroy any more empty. No more empty buildings will be further destroyed because we're friends now.
Oh my God, I cannot.
Listen, I was friends with Jor-El once years ago.
Yeah.
I might as well be friends with you now.
Singing lessons with him, didn't you?
Exactly, I did. I'm saying, it makes no sense to me that anybody says, "Oh, how careless was Superman? How uncaring, how reckless, how dangerous, how this is no Superman I ever learned about in my life." That he would just have that battle with. What's he gonna do? Say, "Hey, do you mind if we step outside and we be outside the atmosphere of the Earth so that no one gets hurt and there's no destruction to buildings that were already emptied out?" And now, of course, people might try to compare us to them, and they might say, "Listen, you guys were mad that instead of getting a Superman sequel, we're going to get Batman in the movie. Why is that any different than us wanting to kill Ben Affleck?" It's there's a the difference here is, and I'm not petitioning the White House, and I think you agree with me. I read your Steve put a little report up. If you haven't seen it, it's very interesting, and I think it kind of puts across all of our feelings on this whole deal. The logical ones of us that aren't putting up death threats and asking the president to stop Ben Affleck from making movies, and that is that it really doesn't matter we all have our own ideas of who we'd want to play Spider-Man or Bruce Banner or Superman or whatever, roles that we're talking about. But we don't, it's not something that's destroying our lives or that we need to get politicians involved in, So the newest thing, of course, is now Ben Affleck being Batman. But what Steve wrote, and I totally agree with you, Steve, and that is that it really doesn't matter to me that Ben Affleck, first of all, I think Ben Affleck could and does have the potential to be fantastic in this role. He's certainly got the charm. He's certainly good looking enough to be a millionaire playboy, and then with a cowl on and a slightly meaner voice, maybe without the the gruff grumbly mumbly I got marbles in my mouth that Christian Bale used. I think he could be just as effective a Batman as anybody else could be, and maybe better. I mean, he's got plenty of experience, and as I said, he's a big guy. He's good looking. He can certainly get into shape. And what you were saying is, and I agree with you, is that it doesn't matter to me who plays Batman if I think he could be good. But what more matters, of course, and we mentioned this before, is that they felt the need to rush this into the quote-unquote Man of Steel sequel.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I have an opinion on who would be a good Batman or whatever, but as a Superman fan, talking about a Superman movie or a follow-up to Man of Steel, I personally didn't want Batman in the movie, so it doesn't really faze me who they pick as Batman. But I think if Batman has to be in the movie, then Ben Affleck's as good a choice as anybody, if not better than some, definitely better than others. I think Christian Bale as Batman didn't necessarily win me over. I think it was more of the stories, and I know we've had your opinion on the Batman Dark Knight movies. But I think anybody, or not anybody, but I think any good actor in those Christopher Nolan movies would have been a good Batman. Christian Bale wasn't necessarily the be-all and end-all. He just had very good scripts and things to go, and story to run with. And I think the same would be for this movie. If it's a good script, if it's a good story, and obviously Ben Affleck being who he is and being an A-list and a director and an Academy Award winner and all that kind of stuff, wouldn't sign on to a movie, especially something with this much scrutiny, if he didn't feel that it was a good story and if it obviously wasn't a good deal for him as well.
Well, I tend to agree with you in terms of Bale and the Nolan films, as much as a fan as I wasn't, just because they didn't do anything for me. I was talking to my sister earlier today, and I think it's telling, and you won't get many Batman or Nolan fans to admit this, but it's telling that those movies were really about Nolan and then Heath Ledger, which is what made them explode. If you look at Batman Begins, it didn't even make half of what Man of Steel has made, and now for some reason Warner Brothers is unhappy enough with the take of Man of Steel that they think it necessary to introduce Batman because they believe that will hedge their bets and save the sequel from the critics' wrath or save it from.
Well, see, I disagree there.
Negative backlash. But what I was going to say was the trilogy, the Batman trilogy, was really more Nolan and then suddenly Heath Ledger than it really was anything about Bale. Even though people talk about him being good and he was an award winner and all that for other things, I think it's really about Nolan changing the face of comic book movies and making these great, realistic, gritty films. If you really think about it seriously, would it really have made a difference if it wasn't Bale, but it was somebody else in the same role? And I don't really think that it would have.
No, I agree with you. I don't think either. But I disagree that Warner Brothers are looking at Man of Steel as being not successful or whatever, because everything, and even now if you look at the DVD promotions they're running for the Blu-ray and DVD release of Man of Steel, the biggest thing that's on the page there in the promotional campaign is $650 million. Is the big numbers there at the top of their promo, showing you that they were happy with the Man of Steel takings at the box office. And whatever the critics want to think, there are many movies that the critics have panned, and Man of Steel, as you said, did better than Batman Begins, did better than Superman Returns, did better than The Amazing Spider-Man, did better than so many other superhero reboots. So it's done.
Iron Man worldwide, it's done better than that. Not
the original movie, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as origins go, only Spider-Man worldwide was better. It took more money. But I think, of course, just like anything, even when you hear negative things about actors behind the scenes saying they didn't get along or the movie didn't come out the way they want to, when they have to do their promotion thing, when they go on to talk shows, they're not going to come out and say, oh, the director was an idiot. I hated the movie. It was a terrible thing. Don't come out and see it. So I don't know that we can – all I can take is the evidence that I have at hand, and the evidence that I have at hand is we're afraid. So we need to do something big. We need to do something major. We need to do something that we know people want rather than continuing something that has already been successful but does have the potential to be less successful if we do a sequel.
I don't see it as being afraid. I see it as maximizing our profits. Superman. I see it as Man of Steel did great. Batman is so popular, let's put the two of them together and double our profits.
But wouldn't you double your profits and then therefore triple or quadruple your profits if you did a Man of Steel 2, a Man of Steel 3, but at the same time or between years, just like Marvel does, do a team-up movie, do a Batman-Superman movie, then do a Justice League? I mean, in Marvel's world,
look at Thor.
They have done every single movie, and the characters are still having sequels, but they also have the team-up movie. That doesn't mean suddenly Superman doesn't exist.
No, well, I mean, look at Thor. Thor got his first movie, then he went into the Avengers, and then he's got his second movie. Why can't Man of Steel? Why can't Superman do the same?
Well, he can. He can, obviously.
Exactly. He can do Man of Steel, then do whatever this Batman-Superman movie is going to be, and then we can get a Superman thing afterwards. There's always a possibility of that happening.
And if that is the case, then I think that would be just fine. I actually would have no issue with that. The issue that I took was that they came out and said this is the Man of Steel sequel, and now he's sharing it with Batman. But now it seems to me, rumors indicate, different trends indicate that Warner Brothers is kind of shying away from the idea that this is a sequel and instead will be its own Superman-Batman movie.
Yeah, well, we only have Zack Snyder's original announcement from Comic-Con where he said, yes, we're doing another Superman movie, and then did the whole Batman announcement as well. So, it's, I guess, mixed messages at such an early stage, but it seems to be that this is a Superman-Batman movie, which is following on from the Man of Steel universe, and meaning it's not part of the Dark Knight universe, which is, something that maybe some people need a line in the sand to be drawn at to clear things up there. So I'm not thinking of it as a Man of Steel sequel. I'm thinking of it as a DC Universe movie that includes Superman and Batman, which has the Henry Cavill Superman in it.
And I will say the good thing about that, in doing it in that direction, where I would expect Thor 2 and Captain America 2, just as Iron Man 3, will do or has the opportunity, assuming that the team-up is better, is good, or as is on equal ground as one of these other quality movies, that would then pick up new fans of perhaps Batman that didn't see Man of Steel, or people that weren't that happy with Man of Steel but now go and see this and love that Batman and Superman are in it, and really, and maybe gain more of an appreciation for Henry Cavill and Zack Snyder or whatever, and they say, well, now I'm going to go see the sequel. So I certainly can see from a business aspect that this could increase the profits, which is what businesses are looking for, on any of the future projects. So doing this one first makes sense in a lot of ways, because, as I said, you got the fans from both sides. You could get Superman fans who hate Batman. You can get Batman fans who hate Superman. You can get mixed people who are going because it's such a spectacle to see them both on the screen at the same time, who then might say, oh, well, I'm going to check out the rest of the universe of these films as well, which I assume is going to happen with the heroes from Avengers when they go off and continue their film series. But, of course, but with Ben Affleck as Batman, I'm actually personally kind of excited to see his take on it. It is interesting that they're saying he is a counterpoint to Henry Cavill's younger, inexperienced Superman, in that Ben Affleck will be an older, wiser, more battle-hardened, scarred crime fighter. And what's interesting in that to me is, and it's also bothersome in a way, because I feel like what did somebody else who once co-hosted this show with you? Secrets and Lies, Secrets and Lies, Secrets and Lies. We're getting it in the real world now, too. As Neil Bailey used to say, the secrets and lies are getting to me, and I understand, they call Star Wars movies Blue Harvest and stuff because they don't want people to know what's being filmed. But we were told, and to me it's in no uncertain terms. I know people are arguing that it could be read a different way, and at this point it has to be, unless you want to come straight out and say they're lying. We were told Superman's the first guy, Superman's the kickoff, other people will follow him. We were told there's no story. We were told there's no casting even going on. All these rumors are just rumors. No one's even been thought of because we don't even know what the story is going to be. And then suddenly you turn around and Ben Affleck is Batman. And now there's rumors about other people, which of course are just rumors. But Batman being casted, according to the studio, was completely rumor. We haven't even thought of anybody. We haven't even been looking at anybody. There's no story. And, of course, you just said, he must have thought that the story was good enough, that the idea was good enough. But if there is no plan, there is no idea, there is no script, and there is no casting going on, how do we have Ben Affleck now as Batman suddenly when there was nobody even being looked at and no casting was even being done yet, and there is no story? And also, how is Superman the first superhero that everybody else emulates if Batman is a hardened crime fighter that has been scarred and experienced and is wiser and been around longer than Superman? It doesn't have to be that way, although it always has been, but things changed in Man of Steel that we were always used to there being one way and now they're a different way. So there's nothing that says in movie form things have to follow true to the canon of comic books, and in different eras comic books follow different methods, but always Superman in general, in every one of those forums, in every one of those eras, Superman was the first that relaunched the age of superheroes, and Batman was not some old guy who came later and passed along his wisdom to him.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting because we don't know whether or not Batman has been around as Batman. I mean, he could have been crime fighting in an urban myth kind of way that people keep hearing about this thing that this person who's been fighting crime in Gotham for so many years, but he's never necessarily been named, and so the whole naming of Batman or whatever can come after Superman being named. We don't know how many years after Man of Steel this will be set, but there are some issues there. I'm assuming that there's a script that Ben Affleck has read or a storyline that Ben Affleck has read to get him on. It may well be that they've said to him, look, you get in this one and then we'll let you write or direct the next Batman solo movie. And so maybe that was the hook that got him in and to agree to be cast as Batman for this. There may be a whole multitude of things, and not necessarily the story for this movie itself, that was the catalyst for getting Affleck as Batman. We don't know, but I can understand where you're coming from.
That was certainly my thinking. I thought, because there were rumors years ago that WB was courting Ben Affleck to do the Justice League movie as director, and he is kind of WB's. I read somewhere Golden Boy in terms of other movies, and he's won awards for directing, and he clearly has, in my eyes, proven himself behind the camera and in front of the camera generally to movies he's directed himself. But I think he's proven himself as an actor, but he's also clearly a great award-winning director. So I very much think that it's possible that that's part of his deal, that maybe they're bringing him on and he's still going to be in contention or has already agreed to direct Justice League or one of the other Batman films or something along those lines. So I'm with you there.
Okay, well, you mentioned other casting rumors, and with Batman and with Bruce Wayne being in the film, people automatically next look at who could be the villain in the film, and Lex Luthor. Obviously, his name comes up, being another rich billionaire who could, have ties with Bruce Wayne or, business deals with Bruce Wayne, but then be the villain that Batman and Superman need to go up again. And obviously, Superman has issues with Lex Luthor. And then we've got names who've been thrown around. Mark Strong came out as a big contender early on, and then Bryan Cranston's name has been of late. People saying, it's almost a done deal with Bryan Cranston, but nothing official has been announced as far as Lex Luthor even being in the movie, let alone who might be cast in that role.
Yeah, well, it's just like with Man of Steel or any other comic book movie or big, geek movie, type of thing. There's always rumors. We talk about these, on an almost weekly basis, and of course every month on Radio KAL. New rumors come out about new things about Superman, and this is just going to be for the next 2 years. obviously, as we get released more actual information, then that won't be rumor anymore. But, once that's cleared up, then there'll be the next thing. Until Ben Affleck was announced, it was all these other people. Leo DiCaprio is going to be Batman, and this guy and that guy, and somebody else is going to be Batman. And it was all rumors. And a lot of things I'm fond of posting on different social media sites is it's all rumor until it isn't. And, all this stuff is going to happen over the next 2 years as we hear more and more, but still get less and less actual information. But Mark Strong, of course, played Sinestro in Green Lantern, which what's the deal with Sinestro anyway? Like, if your name is Sinestro and you have kind of a handlebar twisting mustache and how could you not be the villain? I mean, that's kind of like, of course he's the villain. His name is Sinister. Mark Strong, I actually, that was one thing I did like about Green Lantern, and I actually didn't think it was as bad as a lot of people did. I would have liked to go in a different direction, but Mark Strong was good in it. He also played the villain in the first Kick-Ass movie. And, of course, Bryan Cranston is just phenomenal. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but Breaking Bad is just a fantastic television show. And, when I first started hearing about it, I was like, the guy from Malcolm in the Middle is going to be playing somebody in a serious drama, and he's just been great. And the other thing I think is funny is it seems like people, when Xavier was getting cast for the X-Men, I think it was First Class. They started coming off with new younger people who were bald. It's like they had to be bald people, so it seems like Bryan Cranston's bald on Breaking Bad, and Mark Strong's bald and Kick-Ass, so these are two bald guys that, it could be anyone. It could be a guy with hair. They could even have Lex Luthor have hair in the movie. We've seen, Lawrence Fishburne play Perry White. We've seen redheaded it clearly doesn't matter if they find the right person, but that being said, I think either of these two guys would be a good Lex Luthor. People are saying it shouldn't be Mark Strong because he's already played Sinestro, but I think I think that Green Lantern movie is likely to get written off. Maybe not, but I don't totally believe. Different. Yeah, and I don't think we're going to see a continuation of him as Sinestro. But we could, and if that's the case, they know that, and then they wouldn't cast him. Yeah. But I think Mark Strong has proven himself to be an interesting character actor and a villain. And Bryan Cranston, as I said, is really a strong actor and could certainly pull it off. So I would be happy. I'd probably lean toward Bryan Cranston myself, but either one of those, if they prove to be at all true. And, of course, a lot of times I think fans, when they're promoting these rumors and things, are hoping someone's listening. And clearly they weren't listening with the Batman choices because I haven't heard one person I have heard people say it's fine, but most of those people are just trying to placate everybody that's losing their mind over the fact that the guy who played Daredevil.
Yeah, don't forget Ben Affleck also played Superman in a way when he played George Reeves in Hollywoodland.
Which is funny because it's almost like Batman fans are continuing to pound on Superman, even though Ben Affleck is playing Batman now. That's funny.
But you mentioned 2 years, and that's because of the fact that they did announce that the movie would be released on July, was it 17th or 15th in 2015?
Yeah, I think the 15th, maybe.
No, I think
15th.
I think it might be July 17th.
Something along those
lines.
July
17th, July 17th, 2015.
Which is, a reasonable amount of time. Usually, these types of movies take a year off. They have the one summer, and then they're out, and then the next summer there's nothing, and then the summer after that. Now Marvel, of course, is going full steam ahead and strong, and they have 1 or 2 movies every single year. And obviously, DC and WB would like to get to that, and I agree they should try to get to that. And we've all been saying it for years, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to rush into something that you're not prepared for. So I just hope, as we mentioned before, that they really think about this and they really come up with something that makes sense and that is good and comes together well, as opposed to being a lot of people complain about Man of Steel being too much action and not enough story and not enough character. Now you're going to add another superhero into the mix with other heroes and other things going on. So that almost stands to be double the amount of action and things that you would have. So it's, a lot of those earlier Batman movies got out of control because there were 2 villains, and then 3 villains, and then 4 and 5 and 6 villains. You know, when you start getting everything packed in like that, I think you overwhelm the film and you overwhelm the story with action and goofy looking characters that are villains and things like that. So it's a large undertaking, and a lot of people would rather see them kind of plan it out like Marvel did over 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, well, and it's funny that we're talking about upcoming movies when Man of Steel itself hasn't even been released everywhere yet, because Japan has just had its world premiere at the end of August, and August 31st is the actual release date for the movie across Japan as a whole. So it's still got another market to open up as of this recording.
Yeah, I guess speculations are that it'll make at least 20 million in Japan. So, I mean, we're still going to see numbers close to 700 million.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think a lot of satisfied customers in Japan are going to see this movie. And the premiere was another, you know, big time event. And, you know, with people walking the carpet and signing autographs and things like that. So people are still just as excited as they were here back in June, and as they were in Australia when you had yours in July or at the end of June, whenever that was. And I think, you know, the idea that it's still going strong and still hasn't opened in all the markets is funny, as you say, that we're already on to the next thing.
Yeah, now the Japan premiere did see Henry Cavill, Zack Snyder, Debbie Snyder, and Charles Roven walked the red carpet, as you said. I was interested to see that their poster, you know how we've got that Superman flying poster, and it seems to be over a blurred city in the one that was released in the US and here in Australia as well. The one in Japan has him flying over Mount Fuji.
Ah, interesting.
So, very nice local flavour there for the Japanese fans. So yeah, let's see how it does. Like you said, 20 million. Is an estimation for Man of Steel's box office takings in Japan. We will keep an eye on that and see how it does. But here and over where you are, we're obviously all waiting for Man of Steel to be released on Blu-ray and DVD, and that will happen in America on November 12th, where I saw with interest that the Australian release will be November 6th.
Ooh, you get it before we do, eh?
But yeah, well, so what did you think of the covers? You know, originally we saw all the same covers, but now we've actually seen that the official covers for the 3D Blu-ray release is a bust, if you like, of Henry Cavill from the waist up, you know, looking very stern, and it even has for the 3D cover a 3D lenticular thing where you shimmer from side to side and see it almost like in a 3D effect. And the Blu-ray, just the standard Blu-ray, is the big S with the Superman, small Superman flying upwards with the contrails behind him, where the 2-disc DVD edition is that version of where his cape's kind of up above his head and he's looking off to the left. So interesting DVD covers to see them, different across the Blu-ray 3D and DVD.
Yeah, my favorite one, I think, is the 3D one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a poster that they released not long ago. You had them posted on the site, where they had different character shots.
Right.
This is actually the same shot. He's full body in the original shot, and they just cut it in half and put it on the cover like that. They had a Jor-El one and a Zod one, I think.
That's right.
I think the least impressive is the one where he's looking off to the left, and the Man of Steel symbol with him flying, which is probably the one I'm going to get because I don't have a 3D television. And the 3D itself, I did see it in 3D because I went to the local IMAX theater, and the sound was great and the size of the screen was fantastic, but the 3D didn't really
do it for you.
I was whelmed.
To use a Young Justice term. But they've also got the collector's edition, which is 3D limited collector's edition, which comes with a metal S-glyph with a lucite glass stand, which is a nice addition to your collection if that's what you're going for. Again, I don't have a 3D TV or a 3D Blu-ray player, but in the 3D pack you get the 3D version, the Blu-ray version, and the DVD version. So I guess that covers all bases. If you do in the future get a 3D, home system.
That's true, but I you know what's weird is that I guess it's the collector's edition or whatever. So inside it must have some cool extras, but I'm least impressed by the look of the case for the. It's just small. It's just the size of the disc itself. It looks more like a soundtrack case than it does a movie case. So I don't know, as far as wanting to collect it, and Lucas did this with the Star Wars films, released it in every possible fashion with every possible picture you could get in every possible size. And I'm sure, and I actually know people who have bought every single version that has come out, even if the movies themselves weren't changed or updated or digitized or added sound or anything. And that's the hope, of course, that because you're an avid collector or because you love Superman so much that you'll buy the Blu-ray 3D, you'll buy the Blu-ray DVD, and you'll buy the regular 2-disc, and you'll buy the collector's edition to get them all. Now, I personally would like the collector's edition because I like that S-glyph, and I'd like to display that with my other statues and things, but I don't really like the packaging on that one.
Now, what is interesting about this is that it has nearly 4 hours of special features, but whatever happened to that animated thing that they were supposed to be doing with Zack Snyder and some kind of an animated feature? We just never saw hide nor hair of it. It just disappeared.
Was that talked about was that supposed to be released on the movie when it came?
If not for the Blu-ray DVD release, then when?
I don't know. Maybe a television thing. Maybe a how Batman had the Nolan-directed Batman animated thing that was Gotham Knights or whatever. Maybe something along those lines.
Maybe it's kind of disappeared off the radar.
Maybe the disappointment they had in the film has stopped them from doing any further Superman projects.
Right, maybe that's what some of the fans out there or the non-fans might latch onto. But that's the DVD out November 12 or in November, depending on where you are. And I think it's in December in the UK even. So check out that. You can pre-order it from our online store. Go to supermanhomepage.com/shop and order the 3D, DVD, Blu-ray, whatever one you want, whichever one you want. The collector's edition is not available on our online store. It is I believe available from Warner Brothers themselves. In Australia, that collector's edition will be available through JB Hi-Fi stores if anyone's interested here in Australia. So there we have it. What are we going to jump onto next?
Well, it's interesting. People were torn between whether they liked Superman Returns, whether they hated it, or whether they just thought it was okay, whether they loved it, whether they wanted to see a sequel. And of course, Brandon Routh's still around, and people asked him what he thought of Man of Steel. And his comments were, as I would have figured, he's always been a class act guy, pretty positive.
Yeah, well, he did admit that he hasn't actually seen the movie, that because he's got a new baby, he doesn't get much time to go to the cinema. He's busy working, so I guess whatever free time he does have, he probably spends with his family when he's able to, so I can understand that. But he did say that from what he's heard, he says, people asked for more action, and perhaps they got that because that's what Superman Returns lacked. But at the same time, what Superman Returns had, perhaps Man of Steel lacked, and that's a lot what some of the comments people made about character moments or softer moments or what have you. So again, he obviously says that you can't get 100% success. No one's always never going to please everyone. So like I said, he's a class act, and he's only made comments based on what he's heard, and he hasn't actually seen the movie. But did go on to talk about the pressure he felt having to live up to the Christopher Reeve challenge of trying to play the character the way Christopher Reeve played it, and I think they kind of did him a bit of a disservice making him do that, because he was obviously put up a huge challenge to it was a no-win situation really.
Yeah, and I think when you put him in that weird-looking costume, even though I thought it was good for the film, but you're trying to present this as a continuation of a much-beloved franchise that people still, even with Man of Steel, can't break away from. You're giving him a very difficult job to begin with, and then you're trying to update him and trying to make him look different, and then having him do things that in a lot of the earlier fans' eyes, the Christopher Reeve version of Superman would never have done, you make it more difficult for those people to accept him. And it was, as an actor, I don't think you ever want to go in and be told, okay, look, emulate this person as exactly as closely as you can. And, I remember hearing about it at the time, and, it was always, well, they don't want me to copy him, but obviously we do have similarities and we are doing this in a similar way. So, but I think, kind of under all that, the subtext is, be Christopher Reeve if you can.
Exactly.
And it's very difficult to do that. And, but I do like that he's making a logical remark that a lot of fans and a lot of other people don't seem to be able to make, and that is, it's as simple at its base as you can't please everybody all the time. And when you it's totally true. When they complained about Superman Returns, it was, it's mamby-pamby, it's crybaby this, it's crybaby that, it's moping, there's no action, he doesn't punch anyone. And then you get in Man of Steel, he punches too many people, there's too much explosions, there's too much action. So it's I think it's a lose-lose situation when you're trying to get involved with pleasing everybody.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, let's move away from movie talk and look into TV. Now, there's not too much going on for Superman fans on the TV front, but there are some DVD releases that collect together some of the best of Superman's animated TV, animated series over the years. There's a Superman triple feature, a Superman double feature, and like I said, they collect together some of the Justice League and Superman the Animated Series, double episodes, 3-parters, all that kind of stuff. So, I guess it's not something that, big-time collectors who already have that stuff in season box sets and what have you would be interested in, but it's definitely something that, mums and dads looking at the stores thinking what to get little Johnny for the birthday or Christmas might be interested in picking up.
Yeah, we've talked about these kind of things before. The collectors and the people who watch these as they've been released already have them or already have seen of them what they want to see. But it's great in a Walmart or in a supermarket to have it in the bin on the way out. You catch it and I'm at the store and my kids are home. I like to grab something for them whenever I go out, so I'll just pick this up. And yeah, so it's a good way to, keep increasing that wallet size as we talk about.
Or decreasing our wallet size.
Oh, well, that's right, yeah.
So these are out on November 1st, the Superman double feature, the Superman triple feature, and there's also a DC Superheroes movie 3-pack, which has got Batman Gotham Knights, Green Lantern Emerald Knights, and Superman the Animated Series A Little Piece of Home. And there's also the special edition DVD version of Justice League The Flashpoint Paradox, which you can also grab. That's out on September 10th. So look for these box sets for, just slices of the best of these animated shows. So check those out in November. Now, elsewhere for TV fans, we have DC Nation releasing a couple of, animated shorts. We've obviously in the past we've had the Super Best Friends Forever. We've had the Aardman animation. We had a number of different things. But now we've got I'm seeing the Super Pets, DC Super Pets. And obviously we've spoken about Tales of Metropolis, which there have been 2 episodes.
I love Tales of Metropolis. I've been enjoying that greatly. The 2 that I've seen. I haven't watched any of the Super Pets. I always thought the Super Best Friends Forever were cute and funny in some ways. What was good about those is they did have kind of they had some comedy in them that would go over the kids' heads, but the animation, of course, and the characters and the character voices were definitely meant to entice younger viewers, and I think that's the same thing going on with the Super Pets. Tales of Metropolis is a little older set and is good for like you and I and the type of comedy they're doing there. But I think I'm learning in these types of things that they keep releasing that may be part of the reason why they decided Young Justice just wasn't for them anymore, because it seems like maybe those shows, Young Justice and Green Lantern, were too older skewed to fit in with whatever demographic they're going for. And if Super Pets is any indication, I think maybe that demographic is much younger than a show like Young Justice is going to appeal to.
Yeah, definitely. I think you might be right on the money there. And it's been interesting that DC Comics on their YouTube channel have been releasing full episodes of some of those past DC animated shorts, all the World's Funnest, the Super Best Friends Forever, the Farm League, all those have been, and Super Best Friends, I said that, have all been released in full episodes on YouTube. So if you haven't been checking them out, or don't have Cartoon Network or whatever, you can check them out on the YouTube channel for DC Comics.
Very cool.
Okay, let's get into our comic book discussion. I've caught up on most of my comic book reading. The only one I haven't read is Supergirl number 23. But let's start with Superman Annual number 2. And this is mostly focused on Lois Lane and her involvement with what is being called the 20.
I really enjoyed this story, and I like the artwork. I love the focus on Lois. I'm interested and intrigued to find out where it's going to go in terms of her being in the situation that she's in. If you haven't read it yet, I don't want to give anything specific away, but it seems like a very bleak situation, and I like how it got to where it is, because they kind of go backwards in time and show you how we got to where we are, and I'm waiting to see where that's going to go and how we're going to get to it. I guess we have to wait until after Villains Month or whatever it is before we actually see the ending to this story.
Yeah, especially with Lois being in the predicament that she is now, that she has been, well, like I said, we don't want to give too much away if you haven't read it, but doesn't look good for Lois.
No, it doesn't, but I guess she's been in worse situations before.
For sure, but yeah, very interesting there, and it's got to do with, Brainiac having, at the time of, taking Metropolis and, trying to steal the city in a bottle, having given 20 people some powers, and so they're almost like sleeper agents, if you like, here on Earth. So very interesting to see, just how enmeshed those 20 people are, and how that works out for Metropolis and for Superman.
I wouldn't want to be a sleeper agent if my head was going to blow up like that.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty hard to go out of the house with a head like that.
Especially with your hats not fitting.
I know. I mean, nothing fit. You can't put your sunglasses on. It's a terrible, terrible situation, really.
Makeup just doesn't do enough.
No, not at all. But it's a very entertaining story. And if they're going to pick up... what's kind of bothering me about this whole situation is... I remember back in the day, and we've talked about the numbers and the triangle and going in order and that kind of thing, and they don't want to do that, and I get that, and but it would be helpful if they would at least kind of release things in order. The last story that I read where they were building up to Brainiac coming back was the Hector Hammond story where Queen Bee or whatever knocks Clark unconscious and has him in the sewers underground, and I haven't yet seen the continuation of that story because it hasn't been released yet, and yet we're already seeing the next part of that story, and then we're going to see the Trinity War and Villains Month before we get back to that, and it's like the books that are out at the same time that are where the story is supposed to be going on, you have the next part of the story before you've gotten the fourth part of the first story, and they're not even coming out in an ordered fashion.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you mean, and editorial has a lot to answer for there at DC. I'm not sure where they're going, why things are jumping around. I mean, how long has it been since we've seen that whole back to Krypton? Remember we saw that Superman and Superboy and Supergirl, being showing up on Krypton, and then it's been like 6 to 8 months since we've seen anything from that. So. Whether they're planning that far ahead or they're just picking up on loose ends and just going with them whenever they think of it, it doesn't seem to be very clear.
Yeah, and I'm trying to, you read a book a month before, and then you get to the next book, and now you're in another story, and then by the time you get to the next story, you got to go back and read, if not the whole story, you got to re-look over the last few pages and go, oh, yes, I remember. They were laying in the sewer, and somehow... Hector Hammond is there, and it's very disjointing and disorienting to, comics are serialized in nature, and you have to wait such a long time. And if we only read the Superman books, but imagine if you had a pull list of 40 books a month, how do you even keep track of where your stories are at any given time? I used to collect them for like 6 months and not read them until after the 6 months, and all there was that much that I could read in order, so that I wouldn't lose track of where I was at. But doing the show, I can't can't always do that because we want to kind of try and be up to date. And, but now the way it is, it almost seems like you have to wait several months before you even get the disjointed parts of a story.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
it's frustrating. Now, Superman Unchained, the Unchained title has been doing very well on sales charts, seems to be topping sales charts each month so far. Issue number 3 has this whole Wraith versus Superman and General Lane's involved. Quite interesting.
I like the story. I like to hate General Lane, you know. They were one time some years ago they decided to make General Lane a real son of a bee, and they've stuck with that. You know, on Lois and Clark, he was this weird old guy who was kind of quirky and goofy, and just Lois's father, and there wasn't really a whole lot of angst there at all. And of course on this version of General Lane, Lois hates him, has very little respect for him. He has no respect for Superman. He has no respect for Clark. He pretty much is an arrogant guy who believes his way or the highway, and a lot of times the highway entails being attacked.
And he's not necessarily even anti-alien, as we see in this story.
Well, that's what he says. It seems that seems a little. I think that we need to put measures in place to protect ourselves from you, but you're a coward. It seems kind of contradictory to. I mean, if you're not afraid of him, then why do you need all these other strange weapons?
Don't antagonize him.
But I did like the way it went. I'm interested to find out what the deal is. What Wraith says to Superman when they're about to begin their battle where they're allies is interesting, and I'm kind of interested to see where they take that and why it is he feels he's going to have to do what he says he's going to have to do. If he's been programmed that way, or if he's been ordered by his bosses, or what the situation is.
Wraith is an interesting character because he's not your stock standard villain. He's empathetic. He seems to like Superman. He seems to look up to him or be impressed by him. But at the same time, we don't understand why he's serving the U.S. government, or what his ties are to the U.S. government. But it's playing out nicely.
Yeah, I'm interested. I like Superman Unchained so far.
Yeah. Now
I like the art as well.
It's very good. Jim Lee's doing a great job on Superman Unchained. Action Comics number 23. Again, another almost similar storyline where we got these, aliens versus Superman, this Pax Galactica, and then you got this Lexus character. What do you make of Action Comics 23?
Well, it was weird. I'll give it that. It was 2 or 3 parts, I think, that led us to this position, and we finally saw what Lexus was and who these Pax Galactica people. What I did like about it was the comedy. I found that this kind of 3-part adventure had a lot more witty remarks, had a lot more comic bubbles. When Lexus shows up. And he goes, Lexus, I presume, and they go, yes. He goes, you might have started off with destroyer of universes and killer of worlds before, when you first let me know what was going on. And also I like the so say we all. It's definitely purposely there for Battlestar Galactica. That was the phrase that they used all the time. And
this is Pax Galactica.
They used it here. As a little wink to the people who might know what they're referring to, and I like that. I mean, then if you step away from that for a minute, you go, Pax Galactica is a dumb name for whoever this group is. Lexus is an even dumber name for whoever the villain is. And then, of course, you have Superman, who many people for many years have said is kind of a simplistic name for a man who is super. But, but it was funny, and I liked a lot of the jokey things they went with. There's some kind of it seems to be the way they like to go, whether it's Man of Steel or whether it's casting Ben Affleck as Batman in the next movie. There's definitely a lot of controversy over the climax to this particular story.
Right.
And for those who haven't read it, Superman's actions again are being called into question, I guess.
But I like the way it ended with Superman, deciding, what his first and only command would be as their liege, and it was, very befitting of the character.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very cool. So Action Comics 23, both liking it there. Superboy 23, not so much on my behalf. This whole back to school thing, this whole monsters, the Dr. Psycho, it seemed very convoluted.
I haven't enjoyed Superboy, I don't think at all, at any point since the relaunch. I tried. I'm still reading it, as per my duties to the Superman homepage, but it's kind of a hard slog for me. It always is, Strangely enough, I'm enjoying this back to school storyline more than I have many of the previous storylines, and clearly more than you, but it is, I hate the artwork. It's almost like, my daughter is drawing it. It's very just kind of scribbly. It's very childish looking. Their faces change from panel to panel. At one point in this story, the bully comes in and says, "I'm going to beat you up because my girlfriend's just trying to make me mad." But the girlfriend is a different character than the one who was trying to make him mad, and yet the boyfriend uses a different name. And I thought, okay, something else is going on here where he's being shown clues that this isn't really what's happening, but they never really covered that. And then, of course, you have everybody turning into monsters, and you have Crypto showing up. It's just a weird, hard to get into. The whole thing with Nowhere and from the beginning it's been a mess for me, this Superboy book.
Yeah, it just, I understand that this, this whole psionic thing, and I don't understand who the monsters were, or why the kids were monsters, and then why this one other particular kid was the one who was making Superboy fight himself almost, or took on the mirror image of Superboy, and who was scared and who wasn't scared, and then you throw in Psycho Pirate at the end as the big villain. It just doesn't seem to be any through line.
No, I don't know that they have any kind of clear direction or exactly what it's just like, well, we got a kid, he's not Superman, but he's not really Superboy, he has some powers, let's just put him in weird situations.
Yeah, we give him a Connor Kent secret identity, and then we rip it away from him in the very same issue.
Yeah, and now he's back to being Connor, I guess, for the school issue or whatever, but then I don't know, it is. And he says he didn't have parents and all that, and of course he's referring to the parents that were his parents when he was in suspended animation and being fed information into his brain didn't really exist, and he's a clone, but is he a clone? He was created somewhere, and I know these are all mysteries we're supposed to find out as time goes on, and but it's very, and I think a lot of this psionic stuff and Dr. Psycho, and it's all kind of still interconnected, and we're eventually going to get to where the Superman family is together again for this whole Brainiac thing, and people are getting orders from this mysterious voice whom it seems we now know is Brainiac, and that he's coming, and so who knows where it's going to lead, but right now it just seems very, in the Superboy story anyway, very convoluted.
Now, as I mentioned, I haven't read Supergirl number 23, but it's continuing on that whole story of Supergirl being on Enoxia with the cyborg Superman, trying to get her body so he can change, finally be able to have a human body again, and using Delacour, this construct thing that's to help. What did you make of 23?
Well, what's strange about this is that much like Superboy, I haven't been really thrilled with the Supergirl stories pretty much from the beginning. There have been little bits here and there that I've liked, but I don't really like her character all that much. I don't really like her attitude all that much. I find it's kind of like the same thing day in and day out. It's, wah, I don't belong here, wah, everybody hates me, wah, everybody tries to kill me. When, in fact, she's the one who starts punching as soon as Superman shows up. She's the one who turns her anger on almost everybody she meets pretty quickly. This story I am kind of, just like with Superboy, if I had to pick one that I enjoyed, I am enjoying this little part, and part of that is that Cyborg's involved, even though it's Cyborg Superman, even though it makes no sense in terms of how he was created. We don't know, we haven't been told, but somehow there's still a Superman that's a Cyborg Superman, even though we don't know how the Doomsday thing happened, and clearly this Superboy isn't the one that came when he died, and so again, we're all convoluted because they wanted to relaunch and they wanted to keep some things and not keep others. But I do like his kind of very devious nature and his misleading, although it breaks down pretty quickly when he realizes that she's not going to go along with it. He immediately becomes creepy.
And I believe there's a bit of a surprise ending for Supergirl fans in regards to just who comes out at the end.
Yeah, again, we don't want to reveal too much, but it's one of those things where I think if you're a Supergirl fan first, you might be very upset by this, you might be very angered by this, but you also might be very intrigued. And if you're somebody who's just kind of reading the books and trying to get a whole sense of things and maybe looking for a hook that's gonna make the Supergirl title worth reading, or at least it would get you pulled into it for the time being to find out what's going on here, I think that this little what a twist at the end will give you a bit of a shiver, a bit of a chill, a bit of a confusion, and make you wonder what's going on. So that can be a good thing.
Interesting. So we'll look forward to further issues of Supergirl to find out what happens next. Okay,
dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, before we move out into our big question segment of the show, Canadian fans might be interested to know that Canada are celebrating Superman's 75th anniversary. Of course, Joe Shuster was born in Canada, and he's being the co-creator of Superman. They felt the need to celebrate the character's 75th anniversary, and will be releasing a series of Superman stamps on September 10th.
Did you decide to put this in here because all the Batman fans are calling it Justice League of Canada now? Have you heard about that? That's aside from all the petitions, that's the next complaint.
Because America is not just the United States of America, but the continent.
I guess, but I think Ben Affleck is Canadian or something. I don't know. But I don't know. He was American. I didn't even. Maybe he is. I tried to. I didn't look at the stories, but apparently that's the other joke. For some reason, it's going to be the Justice League of Canada. I don't even know. I actually didn't even know what the joke meant. It's just I guess it's supposed to be a joke, or I don't know. Maybe what you said it's going to be all encompassing of the, I mean, technically it's kind of like the Justice League of the world. And I think that's why they kind of went with just Justice League when they did the series. And, they have the comic that comes out every month. It's just Justice League, but then they have Justice League of America, which is a separate thing. It's confusing, but of course, somehow out of Ben Affleck being cast, people started talking about Justice League of Canada. I don't know.
Okay. Well, there you go. Something to look into. But let's move into our big question segment of the show.
Let's start with the big question.
Let's do it. Last month's question was, what do you think of the announcement of a Superman-Batman movie? And Jeremy Crawford, one of our regular writers, wrote in, I love that we'll be getting a Superman-Batman team-up in the same film. Since we've been seeing them team up in animated cartoons and animated films, it's about time we get a live-action version. I would have loved to see a Superman versus Batman fight like the world's finest 1990 animated version. Maybe we'll get something where they fight, then realize they have to team up to fight the real bad guy and start a JLA team.
Well, that would be a very interesting way of going. It seems pretty cliche, but we'll see where they end up going with this movie. Hector writes in and he says, I like the idea of Batman being in the next movie as long as the characters have a common enemy and not just fighting each other. I'd rather play Injustice than watch Batman and Superman fight each other on the big screen.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with that. I don't really love the idea of the two characters fighting each other. First of all, I think it's nonsensical and illogical, and
yep.
No matter how many Batman fans tell me that Batman's the smartest and can plan things out and has ways to stop every member of the Justice League, I just don't think it works in real world terms. And I know this is a comic book movie, so it's not the real world, but I just don't really like when they do that. Justin Hayden wrote, I'm excited about the movie announcement. However, I don't want Batman to make Superman look like an idiot. I don't want Batman to be able to figure out some way to beat the crap out of Superman. I'll go see it, and my hope is that it will lead to a Trinity movie, with the focus being on Wonder Woman. I want to see these three together on screen.
Yeah, good call, Justin. I'm with you there with the whole making Superman look like an idiot thing. Dreading that. But Wonder Woman, that's an interesting take there that you've come up with, a Trinity movie. Might be a good idea. Troy M. writes in and he says, I am one of those fans that try to visualise what actor would be right for the comic book characters. I've got my Justice League picked out. I can't wait to see Batman in the next movie, but my dream cast would be Scott Adkins, and I even have his world mapped out in my Nolan Batman's imagination. I wanted to know, have you seen any of his movies, or do you have an ideal actor in a smaller role than Superman you think would be right to play Batman? Well, I guess that kind of that's a bit moot at the moment, that whole discussion about who might play Batman, since Affleck has been cast. But I'm not familiar with Scott Adkins. Are you, Scotty?
I feel like I've heard his name before, but I don't have anything to draw upon. And not being I like all superhero films. I usually see them at one point or another, but not being a Batman fan straight up, I didn't really have an idea of who I would like to be Batman, though, as I said, I think Affleck has the ability to do quite a good job.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Danny C. wrote, Hey guys, my thoughts on Batman being in a Man of Steel sequel are mixed. Sure, it sounds amazing at first, but then I felt a little robbed. Superman isn't going to get the same fully fleshed out story as The Dark Knight did. It seems like a slap in the face. Superman has such a rich history that hasn't been touched yet, and now Batman is thrown into the mix. Batman in the sequel, keep him to the end. He can challenge Superman to a fight a la Rocky III. That's all we need to see of him.
Yeah, with Affleck in there, I know you were, Scotty, a fan of that type of idea of having him come in at the end there kind of thing, but with Affleck in as the Batman, I don't see that as being a possibility. I think he'd need to be almost, 40-60, if not 50-50 on screen.
That seems to be what it looks like it's going to happen, but it is still possible if they've signed him on to play him in other movies, or he's going to direct or something that, like with Nick Fury in the Iron Man movie, he could just appear and then expand his role a bit and be in every crossover movie or something along those lines, and then, of course, have his own type storyline in Justice League, and then maybe a standalone Batman film where he's already established, and we see him where we don't have to go the same way that the Nolan trilogy went, because we've already seen that so recently. So it's possible. It's something that, if they're going to call this the Man of Steel sequel, I'm hoping for, but doesn't seem likely with the direction it seems to be going.
No, especially since they've announced it as being Superman and Batman in the same film, rather than just, like a cameo appearance type of thing. But anyway, we'll wait and see. Up next we have Argent L, who writes in, Hey Steve, Scotty, my first viewing of Man of Steel, I left the theatre thinking I've got to go back and see it again. The second time I saw Man of Steel, I left the theatre thinking, wow, I really hope the next one is Superman versus Batman. Surprise? Not really. But if that's the only way we get to see Henry Cavill as Man of Steel, like, it has to be in a Versus movie. My only concern is, who is Versus? I've never heard of this Versus. And more importantly, who will play Batmite? Nice.
Funny, I know people are saying Matt Damon's probably going to play Robin. So,
Did you see that little...
yeah, of course. That's funny.
Yes.
But our new big question will be, what do you think of Ben Affleck? Strangely enough. What do you think of Ben Affleck being cast as Batman for the upcoming Superman Batman movie?
Yes, get involved with the Big Question segment of the show. Send in your answer using the Big Question feedback form, and Scotty and I will read out your responses next show. Or you can record an audio answer and send that in as an MP3 file, and we will play that here on Radio KAL.
I thought we would get more responses with this one. I thought it was going to be a very polarizing subject.
Yeah, I think people ranted and raved on message boards and comment boards across the internet and couldn't save themselves for a big question response.
It's possibly true.
Only one thing alive with less than 4 legs can hear this frequency, Superman, and that's you.
It's now time for the super secret Sound-Byte. Last month's sound came from the animated movie Superman, Batman, Public Enemies, and 9 people guessed it correctly, Steve.
Yes, they were Jeremy Crawford, Fred Walsh, Justin Hayden, Nick Nicholson, Brandon Whitmore, Bardo Sosa, Derek Stokely, Robert Maples, and John Pipia Jr. Well done, guys. Now let's see if you people and more people can guess where in the world of Superman this new secret soundbite comes from.
If you did shoot me, and the bullet bounced off, it might accidentally hit someone else.
Well, if you think you know where in the world of Superman that sound came from, use the super secret soundbite entry form found at the Superman homepage and send your entry in. Each person who guesses it right will have their name read out here on Radio KAL.
Yes, and now it's Superman song time. Every month on Radio KAL, Steve searches out a song themed with Superman, and this one is actually called Superman. It's by the Robies or the Robies from their 1999 album, The Robies, and also special guest.
Yes, here is Superman.
Walking down the street and I find it out if I should leave, 'cause I've been feeling pretty worthless lately. But now I think we should find a place downtown.
there you have it. That's our song. That's our show. And remember, if there is a suggestion that you would like to pass on to us here at Radio KAL, we're happy to take your suggestions about a topic you think we need to discuss. Maybe there's a song you'd like to request. Maybe there's a big question you'd like us to ask of the fans. All those suggestions can be sent to us using the KAL feedback form found at the Superman homepage, or alternatively you can email us. Scotty's email address is scotty@supermanhomepage.com. Mine is steve@supermanhomepage.com, and we will endeavour to use those suggestions in a future show. But for now, that's it. Thanks, Scotty.
Thank you, Steve, and remember, everybody, I've got bat shark repellent in my pants.
You've been listening to Radio KAL, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com.